Welcome to Collaborating with Startups, Be My App's free webinar about tips for engaging with the right startups and innovators. My name is Holly Wester, and I will be your moderator for this program today. To start off, I will introduce the focus of this webinar, and then we will hear from our speakers who will talk about their experiences. Then we will do a roundtable to talk about the tips and advice that they have, and we will end with some Q&A. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and comments, and we will address them throughout and at the end. Our program today is about the importance of a strong partnership between a company and a startup. So we will hear from Sandra and Bex, who I will more formally introduce in just a moment, about their experiences and any tips that they'd like to share about finding these quality startups to collaborate with on your top challenges, and how to effectively communicate and develop new business opportunities with these innovators that really best align with your goals for the long run. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Sandra. Let me see if I can get her pulled up. Sandra and Bex. First, today we will hear from Sandra, who is the head of the Research and Development Department for the Solutions and Products business segment of Holcim. And then we'll hear from Bex, who is a product marketing manager at Google Cloud. And we'll hear about her recent experience working with Be My App on a virtual hackathon where we identified and gathered, the top innovators to work on their serverless challenge. So welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Let's have Sandra kick it off.
Okay, thank you, Holly, and thank you for having me in this session. So my name is Sandra Boivin. I'm based in Lyon, in France, in our Global Innovation Center. So Holcim is a global leader in building materials and solutions, active in 4 business segments. So concrete, cement, aggregates, and what we call solutions and products, which is everything not directly related to those core products, but expanding the potential of growth into new technologies for the future, new solutions and new services. And so I'm in charge of the portfolio dedicated to this business segment. So I wanted to give you maybe a bit of background on the construction industry for those not familiar with it. So it is fair to say that the construction industry has been lagging behind in terms of adopting innovation. It is a bit of a risk-adverse type of industry, simply because when you design buildings of bridges, you want to remain on the safe side. And I think as users and owners, we could relate to that. So it is a bit of a price to pay to have this risk adversity and the tendency to do what has been done before and proved before as efficient. And it's true also in terms of ways and practices on the job site. So very traditional ways of dealing with things, and really a gap in terms of productivity for the whole sector. So that being said, we believe and we can see that today we're at a tipping point because due to the climate change emergency that we're having, the building sector is responsible for about 40% of the CO2 emission overall. And also the rise in population and the need for housing and infrastructure for this rising population and the associated urbanization. We see that there's really now a call and a need for innovation. Innovation both for green building solutions, but also for the industrialization of the sector and its digitization. And so there's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs because they can value the fact that there's a gap to be filled. And we see that there is an increasing volume of venture capital investment in the construction industry these days. So the open innovation strategy of Holcim to tackle these new opportunities. You can go to the next slide, please, Holly. We want to be able to leverage this dynamic ecosystem that we see around us in terms of startups booming. And so we do that with different tools and approaches. We have, spot-on scouting missions, hackathons that we have dealt with in the past. We have also with our maker colleagues a venture client model for working with startups. We do invest also in some startups when there is a good alignment in terms of strategic goals. And overall, we work with more than 100 startups at this very moment. So the Holcim Accelerator is part of this, I would call it a toolbox. It is a multi-corporate program. We are not only the only corporate member in this adventure. We have embarked local teams from different countries and specific markets. And we just launched season 3 this year. So in a nutshell, we have 4 corporate partners in this accelerator program. Sika, who's a supplier of us, and Mott MacDonald, who's an engineering company. Bouygues Construction is an international contracting partner. And basically what we offer to the startups are different entries into the construction value chain via those different corporate partners. And we believe that it is an added value for the startups. The fact also that we're working with local teams, operational teams across 9 countries is very important for the startups because they can liaise with our operational teams very close to their markets and to their local specificities. So we have Australia, Canada, Colombia, France, Germany, Mexico, Switzerland, the UK and the US participating in season 3 with an overarching challenge on carbon efficient construction, but then a customization of the challenge country per country. In a nutshell, and next slide, please. The different challenges that the countries have put together go around circular economy topic, innovative construction system, bio-based materials, supply chain efficiency. So basically, each of them has taken a different angle to the same issue. And this is also what makes the program rich in terms of potential synergies between startups and corporate partners. Moving forward. Yeah, well, okay. So moving forward, it's Bex.
Anything else you want to add before we?
No, at this stage, I will stop there to leave some time for Q&A.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bex Heart. And as Holly said, I'm a product marketing manager working with Google Cloud, in particular with the serverless products, Cloud Run and Cloud Functions, and workflows and a whole thing of really, really exciting technologies. I recently worked very closely with Be My App hosting a hackathon. And it was fantastic. We started around Thanksgiving, and so we gave it the theme around the easiest pie because it was pie for Thanksgiving pie. And it was a little bit different than other hackathons. This one was an 8-week virtual hackathon. And in retrospect, I would probably call it a developer challenge. People from all around the world. We had, I think it was 70 countries, if I'm not wrong, and more than 1,500 developers engaged with us. And it was overwhelming. We had so many projects. We had almost 100 projects that were legit people going in there and actually putting together big effort to put things. It was very hard to judge. We could only give prizes to 6 projects, and that part was a little bit challenging. But something that was really interesting is we got to meet a ton of developers because through this event, so the theme of the easiest pie and all these was the Be My App were the masterminds of giving us of designing this whole thing of this, like the little pie that you see there. They have the signers. They took care of everything, and it was great because one thing that they also had was webinars just like these, but specifically for the participants. And where our product managers, we had about 8 webinars or 6, something along those lines, and where our product managers came over and spoke about our technologies and took live questions. And a lot of people were asking really good questions from our product managers, and to learn. Some people were already seasoned, and some people already knew how to use our products, and some other people, as a matter of fact, the winner was somebody that just came to get a deeper understanding of our technologies. And they engage with our engineering team because part of the organization is to have mentors. So people that are interested in participating in a hackathon and or a developer challenge like these, is that they get access to our Google engineers or Google product people and people from all kinds of different parts of the organization that sign up to be mentors from like the business perspective or the engineering or the marketing part, and engage on it. We had open office hours, and it was fantastic, the engagement. At the end of the event, we also were able to capture some product feedback. And we did have 1,500, more than 1,500 developers, and more than 100 submitted very specific feedback about our product and their experience using it during the hackathon. So that for us was also really, really interesting, because most of it validated our roadmap, and other pieces were also interesting additions, like considerations to add into the roadmap for things that we haven't considered before. So it was a great opportunity to engage with the community. It was a great opportunity to give back to the community. It was very cool. People from all kinds of different countries came over and engaged. And because these webinars were recorded, they could log in at whatever time was convenient for them to watch them. What else?
Yeah. We actually have a question, Bex, that just came in that says, how was the follow-up with the winning teams after the hackathon? Did any exciting launches come from that? I know you talked about, whether or not it aligned with your roadmap. Did anything come from those?
Yes. So the hackathon just finished. We're kind of like, we just finished. We announced the man, time flies. It was
right
2 or 3 weeks ago. And what we're working on is to also continue engaging with these participants, particularly the winners. There's also it was, as I said, the judging process was very, very difficult because there were so many good projects. The judging panel at the end said, give us a short list. And it was so difficult just to pick the top projects because everybody put so much time and effort into it. I did see a bunch of different things, interesting things that we kind of expected could happen. We saw some projects that were submitted in other hackathons that were happening at the same time by different platforms. And it wasn't against the rules. And I can see, right, as a developer, I can also see to find opportunities to where you can like fit this thing, right? So that was interesting. It was definitely not against the rules. It's very we considered it at the beginning to make it against the rules, but the overhead of trying to figure out who else is like, is this a reused product? Or, the idea was just to leave it to the community to do the right thing, right? Like, we just believe whatever developer said, we just build these. Or some people even said, we just refactored these to fit into these technologies. That also was a very interesting use case. But to answer the question, there will be a long tail event with the particular winners. We're planning a series of engagements with all of them.
An incubation. Yeah, that's awesome. And it just kind of got me thinking, like, along the lines of choosing the right innovators and startups. Were you looking for a specific innovator to take part in this hackathon? Like, did they have to have specific hard or soft skills for the team to start a team?
Yes, I love that question because we didn't know much. In particular, our team, Google has hosted a few other hackathons with Be My App, and that's the reason that we work with you guys. But our team in particular had not had that experience before, so we weren't sure what the expectation was, which kind of developers were going to show up. So we went in fully blind, trying to see what would come out of it. And we got, as I mentioned earlier, people that were just starting with very, very basic skills to people that are pros and that do this for a living. Because that's another thing I discovered. There's people that participate in hackathons for a living. And so there was a good mix of and even there were some CTOs of companies and some of our own customers participated in the hackathon. So that part was really interesting. During the time, we realized that another event that would be really interesting, and it would be an invite-only hackathon, for example. Like now that we have a good pool of people that we are working with Be My App, it will be interesting to identify particular participants. If there is a particular, if you're trying to test a technology that is just very new and you want somebody that has very little skills, something interesting would be to engage with Be My App and be like, look, I want an invite-only event that for people with these characteristics, and I think it will be very successful. Or on the other side of the spectrum, I want 5 CTOs, and this is the price, and this is the technology. I think that also would be a really interesting event.
Yeah,
I'll sit in and watch.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I think this is kind of the perfect opportunity to kind of transition into more of like our roundtable, and we can talk about, these actionable tips and take some questions that people have. So let me just pull this down. You can get a bigger view of us. So there was a question from Jane, and this is for Sandra, actually. It says, how long does it take to set up an accelerator?
It's a good question. The more you do on season 3, it's getting easier. But basically, what takes a long time is really defining the scope of what you want to do. At first of our season 1, we didn't know where we were heading, so we had a very super broad scope, and it was extremely open. And then with season 2 and 3, we reduced the scope. But the scope definition and the alignment of in our case, the corporate partners, because it's a multi-corporate partner, takes, I would say, a good 6 months before you start. And you need that time because afterwards it's a bit a race, because you need to, in our case, we needed to define the challenges with the local teams. We needed to post the challenges, to do the call for solution, to advertise it, to screen it. So once you start, it's really a race. So you better be prepared for this race up front. And I would say, a good 6 months.
Yeah. So what are your tips to actually making that successful then, a very successful accelerator?
Well, it depends on your metrics, but I think there is value also in an accelerator program for a cultural change from within. So I think getting a lot of people exposed to the program, not only the happy few from the innovation teams or the happy few from the corporate team, but really engage with operational people that may not be exposed to this ecosystem, because there is value for the startup to liaise with these guys, because they're not here to chit chat around a cup of tea. They want actionable stuff. They want to really put their solution on the market, so they need to liaise with people who could help them do that. And those are the operational guys, either from the industrial side on our side, or from the commercial side. And also the people from the R&D, from the innovation team was very good to expose to this ecosystem. So in terms of tips, it's really leverage the program also internally to expose a maximum of people, because there's value both for the corporate and for the startups.
Yeah, and I think, Bex, you would probably agree to that as a tip. Having the mentors for the hackathon was very important and crucial to the participants.
Yes, I think that, as I mentioned, the winner assisted to, I think it was like 3 or 4 sessions with our mentoring team, and he was one-on-one discussing the actual architecture diagram and where to implement different parts of the project. And I really do think that part of the mentoring was the key to success. Without that, we probably would have gotten a few projects, but not as many as we did.
Not so much that would align with what your goals are.
Correct.
Yeah. We have another question that says, of the 100+ startups that you mentioned, Sandra, that are involved in your different accelerators, do they all have an impact on your results today?
No, definitely not, and it's not. And it's not the objective, really. We're looking, for a good alignment with our strategy, and we don't expect a direct return on investment. For example, with other models, like the venture client type of model, where you have really you use a startup as a potential supplier, and it's a ready-to-use solution, and you go there. It can happen, of course, and it can affect your P&L. Here we were looking, and we are looking from the Innovation Center to strategic partners in developing innovative solutions for the market. So we don't expect a direct impact on the P&L. We will still happy if that happens, of course, but it is not a metric that we're having.
Okay. And what are like the top criteria for shortlisting an accelerator, or startups for the accelerator, so that if they're looking for that criteria, what are you guys also looking for?
Yeah, I think as it is an accelerator program, we're supposed to give a boost to solutions that have already incubated. So they have to have a solution that is ready to hit the market and to scale up. So basically, the accelerator is there to boost what the startup is doing. So it means that in terms of maturity, they need to. We cannot take seed startups or very early stage startup. They have to have already a potential for scale up. And they need to be ready. And as I said, they need to be strategically aligned with what we need.
Okay. And there's kind of a follow-up there that someone asked. Would you say that launching an accelerator every year is more efficient or beneficial to launching new business?
More beneficial than what?
More beneficial than, I'm reading it wrong, than standard research and development.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that it is complementary. I think that it gives a boost. Basically, I was saying that giving a boost to startups, but internally, really, it gives us a boost as well to have entrepreneurs really eager to succeed and to make it happen. So I think it's an accelerator also for the corporate, not only for the startups, because it's a way to to follow their pace and their needs, and they have no time to lose. And so yes, it's a good boosters, but it is complementary to what a traditional R&D can bring.
Okay, awesome. Let's see here if we have any more questions coming through. We do have one. Bex, how was following up with we actually already asked you that. I kind of mentioned that earlier, how it was following up with the winners, which actually is really complementary to what Sandra and her team does. You know, actually the idea started and then accelerating it. But do you have any tips to that along the lines of maybe the judging criteria? So what was the judging criteria that you set in place so that you were looking for the right teams and the teams knew what you were looking for?
Yeah, our focus was a little less about company ideas that would become businesses and that will become successful companies. For us, our goal was more about people from different walks of life, from different types of levels of experience as developers, testing our products and giving us feedback. So because our focus wasn't so much so, that part wasn't added to the judging process. In the judging process, we added things. We added more things in terms of is this are they using the technologies, like is there the application of our technologies the correct choice, and creativity around it and different things rather than more of the business aspect. As a matter of fact, one of the winners was actually two of the winners were actual games. So they're not so much so in terms of like they will, well, maybe they will become, one of them I think is a viral game that, but we were not seeing it as in terms of like long term. And when I said that we will follow up, like that we're planning on a whole thing to follow up with all these folks, is more in terms of working with the developers more, trying to learn from them and trying to learn from the experience rather than doing the incubator approach, which is also really interesting. And also one of the hackathons that Google worked with you guys was the startup challenge. It was the startup hackathon or something along those lines. And rather than an incubator, the prize in that case was a lot of money on credits to be used for the technology. So it was something along the lines of like $50,000 in credits from the Google Cloud Platform. Wow. So it's a different way to also support this type of businesses and startups. And I'm pretty sure that the startup team that organized that hackathon, their focus on the criteria for judging was probably more focused towards the feasibility of the business. And for us, it was more about the implementation of the technology. So it could be a simple game.
Right. And the implementable. Yeah, it's funny. We actually just had someone ask, can you tell us more about the reward that you can offer startups that you select for your accelerators? And I don't know if Sandra, if you can speak to this also. Let's see. Yeah, is there collaboration for these winning startups? Is it automatic or is it over time?
Well, the collaboration starts within the Accelerator program. So for all selected startups, we have a 6-month collaboration with the corporate partners. So we establish a roadmap on what we want to achieve to demonstrate in the course of this 6 months. So we put together a set of hypotheses. What do we want to check? What do we want to prove? And so it's an intense collaboration for 6 months. At the end of these 6 months, we have a demo day where we also invite potential investors, because some of those startups are looking for additional funding. We do not take any equity during the program, and basically what we want to achieve during this 6 months is get to know each other and see if there is good synergy, good fit, and usually afterwards we will go for a more in-depth collaboration. So go for an MOU and go on collaborating, and we still have a collaboration with season 1 and season 2 alumni. So it's basically there's no prize money. It's just support from a business point of view and from a technology point of view in investigating the market fit for their solution.
Right. And we actually had someone ask, so your standard is 6 months. Are they ever any shorter than that?
No, it's the acceleration period is 6 months. Simply because when you're talking about for sure, if it's a digital solution, it can go faster, but we use this 6 months anyway, and we find interesting things to do. But when it comes to physical proof of concept, when you need to put together an industrial test, when you need to test the market, 6 months is really a short time. So no, we don't go shorter than 6 months.
Good to know. Let's see. Another question just popped in. Let's see. After how much time can the accelerator be measured? Can you measure the ROI of the accelerator? So startups need time after the accelerator gets going. How much time do you need to get results?
Again, I hate to say that, but it depends.
Yeah.
I think we with the traditional cycles that we see in the construction industry, we would have to have yes a good 3 years to see if we have a return on investment. And this seems maybe long for you guys, but in the construction sector, it is not that long.
Okay. Let's see if we have anything else. I might have some questions for both of you as well. Let's see. There are quite a few questions popping up on here, which is awesome. But maybe let's kind of get back to some more tips. I know a lot of these questions have been pretty insightful, but can you talk to any more tips that you have for, or these actions that startups can take to build and start this collaboration?
I think establishing a clear roadmap on what you want to achieve with the corporate partner is absolutely vital. It doesn't mean that it's written in marble. It doesn't mean that you set the roadmap and off you go for 6 months. But you have to make to be quite rigorous in what you want to check. What are the points at which you would potentially shift based on your learnings, but having a clear path and a clear roadmap on what you want to get out of the program, and be demanding on what you want to get, both from the corporate side and from the startup side, is key for the success of such a program.
And what are things that you particularly look for when building this collaboration and the next steps?
First of all, I want to discover an offer that I'm not familiar with yet. So I think there's a thirst for stuff that we have not seen yet, that we have not experienced yet. So it's really taking good insights and really understanding what's new in the offer of the startup, and addressing the fit with what we have today. So I think it's a mutual discovery for the corporate and for the startup. So my expectation is really to learn something during the program, and to come out of the program with more ideas than I started off.
And what kind of stakeholders are typically involved in these accelerators? Are they always industry-based, or are they typically, internal partners?
So yeah, for in our setup, so we limit the internal stakeholders to corporate partners, but with lots of functions represented, depending on the needs of the startup. So it can be R&D people, techno people, but it can be also commercial forces. It can be logistics expert. It's really depending on the needs of the startup. We will pull the right expertise, but we limit the stakeholders to the corporate partners. And as I said during demo day, we invite investors to come. So that the startups can also leverage their presence for their potential next round of funding.
Right. So it's all about, you guys isolate the ones that have the value that they can add.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's see if there's any more questions coming through. Here we went through that one. All right. Well, let's talk some more about, identifying the right startups for you that align with your goals and the production of 2022 and long run. How do you identify those? What's your tips there?
Please, Bex, go ahead.
So, so can you repeat the question again? Like, if I understood correctly, how do you identify startups to pair with and team with? Yes. So, we in particular have a couple of different events at Google. Startup Summit is coming up, where we showcase particular startups using our technologies, and we have a paneling of like, we have different events. It's an event that lasts a couple of days, and to identify startups that we like to feature here, we generally look at folks that are very engaged with our products and that have been successful, but we also look at those that are being less successful and see how we can help them. That's what comes to mind. The most recent experience that we've had is trying to get the startups that we're going to feature. Something interesting that has been actually very challenging for us is the diversity factor. We don't want to have an entire event where it's all a bunch of the same people that look the exact same way. Unfortunately, in startups, at least the experience I've had so far, it's very difficult to find a little bit more of the diversity factor, and it's not as exciting, right? We want to have different people that have different ideas and that can pitch different things, rather than having the carbon copy of the same person in a panel. Right. So that part is a little bit challenging. We're trying to find, and it's also difficult to find, because what we can see is the technology, right? And then it's difficult to say, okay, who's behind these? Who is behind this particular technology, this particular project? And is it diverse? Are we adding to the diversity pool here or not? So that's something that has been very challenging to find out.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you mentioned, Sandra, is you're looking for these ones that are new and different and exciting, but what if it doesn't align with your goals? Is there steps that you take to keep working with them, or is it maybe transferred to another team? What do you do in that case where it's new and exciting, but maybe doesn't align?
No. Sometimes there's no fit, and it can be as simple as from a human perspective, it's not working. It's important, to be able to build trust with the startup, and trust is really based also on human relationship. So sometimes, even though on paper it's supposed to be working, it doesn't. And in that case, it's better, and it's the whole purpose also of the Accelerator program. It's to see if there's no fit, then we say goodbye, and that's it. And it's okay, because when you deal with innovation, it cannot work every single time. So we had that, we experienced that also. But it's part of the discovery and part of the journey. So.
Right.
But to go back to Beck's point on the diversity, we saw recently that the typical startup that we have, the startuppers, may not be the young entrepreneurs that we see and we expect. We have more and more, I would say, mature people with a lot of experience in the industry, who decided to go their own way and to push their innovation in a startup mode, and it gives also a good mix in terms of profile and diversity and approach. Because we didn't experience this lack of diversity in terms of profiles, because we have young, not so young, men, female, and with as it is an international program, lots of nationalities in front of us. So the diversity part has not been an issue, and we saw different, really different types of startups.
During our hackathon, something interesting during the hackathon that we were very, very delighted was that during the hackathon that Be My App organized, we actually had an amazing diverse pool of participants. There were, as I said, there were 70 countries, and there were people from all kinds of walks of life, like the young student developer that is looking for a foot out the door, and the CTO of a company, and like retired people, and men and women, and like all kinds of different things. That was very, very delightful to get, and it was a lot of there was a lot of work from Be My App to help us recruit all these people. So that I'm very grateful for that. We did not have a bunch of carbon copy people, the exact same profile. It was very diverse. So I was very pleased too.
Yeah, and so would you both say that accelerators and hackathons help to improve, brand awareness overall?
I'm pretty sure that Google doesn't have the same issues as Holcim, but definitely Holcim, when you're a cement producer, you do have an issue in being considered as an attractive sector. And yes, definitely it's helping a lot. If I take the example of the zero carbon hack that we did a couple of years ago with Be My App, we had many students and young practitioners, and so we spent a whole weekend on our premises all together, and really afterwards I bumped into one of the participants in a business meeting. He was an architect afterwards, and he was still remembering the event, and really talking about us in a completely different way, because he was exposed to people sharing the same concern, sharing the same wish to change things for the better good, and I think it really helps change our image. But it's true that Holcim doesn't have potentially the same issues than Google.
Well, and I'm curious, so because you brought up how the event was at your facility,
Yep.
Do you have a preference to in-person or virtual or even hybrid? Do you think one works better over the other?
Well, I think there's for sure if it's a 6 months event, you do have to do at least hybrid. There's no other way. But these 48 hours we had all on the same site for 2 full days was something, exceptional, because you see the participants, walking in their pajamas on the premises. You have breakfast together, you have coffee, you have dinner, you have sandwiches. You're all together for this long period, and really at the end of those 2 days, something did happen. And so if you have the opportunity to organize a hackathon in as a physical event, for sure this is an amazing experience.
Yeah. Okay, well, I know we have a hard stop coming up, so I wanted to ask the last question to both of you, and Sandra, if you want to go first. What would be your essential tip to anyone listening, tuning in today, that wants to start innovating with startups?
Just go for it.
Just go for it. Perfect. And Bex, do you have anything?
And for us, it's mostly it's a little bit different for us because the products I'm currently working with and I support are mostly in serverless technology. So it doesn't, like, for me, we had less of that that challenge. But something that I've heard a lot is for companies that want to work a lot more with startups is to provide something that the startup, like, they usually don't have that much money, right? So like the giving free credits or giving something tangible to the startup, not only just the badge of honor that they
Right.
won or something, but something that will actually support them in the long term. It will be
Right. Financial support, tech support, business support, all of the support that they need.
And time. You need to give time. It's, I think, something that is super important. You cannot do that, just too quickly.
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with both of you today. Any final notes you want to leave the audience with?
Feel free to reach out to me if you want to know more about the Holcim ecosystem of open innovation. Don't hesitate.
Yay. Yes, likewise. If you have any feedback or anything that's something we can do better, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you, Bex. And we hope to chat with you both soon.
Bye.